In today's video, we'll be going through questions and answers that has been specially curated to cover key topics in the CompTIA Network Plus exam. So whether you're just starting your Network Plus journey or you're gearing up for the exam, this question and answer video is designed to reinforce your knowledge and clarify your doubts. In this video, we'll be covering questions that goes over networking concepts, infrastructure, network operations, network security, and network troubleshooting. We'll also share some tips and strategies for approaching the different types of exam questions and managing your time effectively during this exam. If you have any questions or clarifications for any topic, this is a video for you, and you can also leave your questions in the comment section and we'll be sure to give feedback to them. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel to stay updated to our videos that will help you on your certification journey. So let's dive right into the questions and answers and get you one step closer to becoming Network Plus certified. Question 1. You walk into a data center and notice an unknown person following you closely. You stop and direct the person to the security desk. What type of attack did you just prevent? A. Piggybacking. B. Evil twin. C. Tailgating. D. Shoulder softening. Going through the options, piggybacking, we can say that is similar to tailgating because it involves an unauthorized person gaining access to a secure area by following an authorized person, but with the authorized person's consent. Evil twin involves setting up a rogue Wi-Fi access point that mimics a legitimate one in order to eavesdrop on wireless communications. Tailgating is a case where an unauthorized person follows an authorized individual into a secure area without permission, while shoulder softening involves spying on someone's computer or device screen in order to obtain credentials or confidential information. For this, we'll be going with option C. Now, like I mentioned earlier, piggybacking is similar to tailgating. The only difference is that with piggybacking, you have the permission of the authorized person, while in tailgating, you do not have the permission of the authorized person. So by stopping and directing the unknown person to the security desk, you have effectively prevented this type of unauthorized access. Question 2. Which of the following types of attacks can be used to gain credentials by setting up rogue access points with identical corporate SSIDs? A. DNS poisoning. B. Fluffing. C. Social engineering. D. Evil twin. DNS poisoning involves corrupting the DNS cache to redirect users to malicious websites. However, it doesn't involve setting up rogue access points. Fluffing is not a recognized type of attack in cybersecurity. Social engineering involves manipulating individuals into divulging confidential information or performing certain action, but it doesn't involve setting up rogue access points. Evil twin involves setting up a rogue access point with the same SSID as a legitimate corporate network. So for this, we'll be going with option D. Users will unknowingly connect to these rogue access points, and this can lead them to have their credentials captured as well as other sensitive information. Question 3. Adam complains that he has no internet connection on his device. You run the ipconfig command on his device and see the IP address 169.254.233.90. What kind of IP address does he have? A. An APIPA IP address. B. A loopback IP address. C. A public IP address. D. A private IP address. An APIPA IP address or automatic private IP addressing is a feature in Windows that automatically assigns a private IP address in the range of 169.254.0.1 to 169.254.255.254. A loopback IP address is usually in the range of 127.0.0.0 to 127.255.255.255, so this is not the answer we are looking for. A public IP address is usually routable on the internet, and it is usually assigned by ISPs from the range outside the private and reserved ranges. while a private IP address is within a specific range and it is defined by the RFC 1918. It is usually used within local networks, but for the scenario we have here, 169.254.233.90, that will be an APIPA address, option A. So this range of IP addresses is usually reserved for use within a local network, but it is not routable on the internet. The purpose of APIPA is to allow devices on the same local network to communicate with each other, even if the DHCP server is down or unreachable. That's why we're going with this option. Question 4. Adam complains that he has no internet connection on his device. You run the ipconfig command and see the output below. Which of the ipconfig commands should you run first? A. ipconfig/all. B. ipconfig/renew. C. ipconfig/flush DNS. D. ipconfig/release. For ipconfig/all, this command will display all the current TCP IP network configuration values, including the subnet mask, IP address, default gateway, and more. While it is useful for diagnostic purposes, it does not attempt to resolve the issue of obtaining a new IP address. ipconfig renew is used to renew the DHCP lease for the network adapter. ipconfig flush DNS clears the DNS resolver cache, and it is useful for resolving DNS related issues. However, it doesn't address the issue of obtaining an IP address. ipconfig/release releases the current DHCP lease and sets the IP address to 0.0.0. For this, we'll be going with option B, and I'll explain why. So for the ipconfig/renew, it will request for a new IP address from the DHCP server, which can resolve the issue if the device was unable to get an IP address previously. Now, if you read the question, it says, which of the ipconfig commands should you run first? Adam does not have any internet connection on his device, and when you run the ipconfig command, it shows you the output that shows the IP version 4 address as 169.254.233.90. So the critical part of the question says, which command should you run first? Some may think that you have to run the release command, but remember, running the release command means that the device already has an IP address. So you have to release and then renew. But in this case, you're requesting for an IP address from the DHCP server to be assigned to the device so that it will be able to have access to the internet. Question 5. Which of the following devices should be configured on the outermost part of a network? A. Modem. B. Media converter. C. Switch. D. Firewall. A modem is a device that modulates and demodulates signals for data transmission over cable systems or telephone lines. A media converter is used to convert one type of media signal into another. A switch is a network device that connects multiple devices within a local area network, and it uses MAC addresses to forward data to the correct destination. A firewall is a network security device that monitors and controls incoming and outgoing traffic based on predetermined security rules. It acts as a barrier between a trusted internal network and an untrusted external network like the internet. So with respect to the question, we'll be going with option D, the firewall. By placing a firewall on the outermost part of the network, you can protect the internal network from unauthorized access, cyber attacks, and other security threats. Question 6. Abila is configuring a network switch to be used in a publicly accessible location. Which of the following should she configure on the switch to prevent unintended connections? A. DHCP snooping. B. Port security. C. Geofencing. D. Secure SMMP. DHCP snooping helps to protect against rogue DHCP servers by filtering the DHCP messages. Geofencing is a location-based service that creates virtual boundaries. Port security on a switch allows you to control which devices can connect to each port. while secure SNMP helps in managing and monitoring network devices securely. For this scenario, what you should configure on the switch will be port security. By configuring this, you can restrict access based on MAC addresses, limit the number of devices per port, and take actions like shutting down or restricting ports if unauthorized devices are detected. Question 7. Which of the following protocols is used to securely transfer files between systems? A. FTP, B. TFTP, C. SFTP, D. HTTP. FTP or File Transfer Protocol is not secure because it transmits data in plain text. TFTP is a simplified but unsecured file transfer protocol. SFTP is used to securely transfer files between systems, while HTTP is used for transferring web pages and data over the internet. However, it is not used for file transfers. With respect to the question, we'll be going with option C. SFTP or SSH File Transfer Protocol is used to securely transfer files between systems by encrypting the data during the transfer. Question 8. Client devices cannot enter a network and you have determined that the DHCP scope is exhausted. To avoid creating a new DHCP pool, which of the following actions will resolve the issue? A. Reduce the lease time. B. Install more switches. C. Install load balancers. D. Decrease the number of VLANs. Option A is the likely question because by reducing the DHCP lease time, you can ensure that IP addresses are returned to the pool more quickly when they are not in use. Option B increases the network connectivity and it may improve network performance. However, it doesn't affect the number of available IP addresses in the DHCP scope. Installing load balancers for option C. Load balancers manages the distribution of network traffic across multiple servers to ensure that no single server is overwhelmed. However, it does not impact the DHCP scope or the availability of IP addresses. Decreasing the number of VLANs might consolidate IP address usage, but it does not directly address the issue of an exhausted DHCP scope, so we'll be going with option A. By reducing the lease time, it will allow for more frequent recycling of IP addresses, which can help to accommodate a larger number of devices without expanding the DHCP scope. Question 9. Which of the following technologies allows multiple VLANs to communicate with each other? A. Spanning tree protocol. B. Port mirroring. C. VLAN trunking protocol. D. Inter-VLAN routing. Spanning tree protocol or STP is used to prevent loops in network topology. Port mirroring is just used to mirror or monitor network traffic. VLAN trunking protocol or VTP is used to manage VLAN configuration across multiple switches, but it does not enable communication between VLANs. Inter-VLAN routing, on the other hand, allows multiple VLANs to communicate with each other by routing traffic between them. So we'll be going with option D, inter-VLAN routing. This is the technology that will allow multiple VLANs to communicate with each other. Question 10. Which of these is used to track and document various types of known vulnerabilities? A. CVE. B. Penetration testing. C. Zero-day. D. SIM. CVE is a standardized list of known vulnerabilities and exposures in software and hardware. Penetration testing involves simulating attacks on systems to find the vulnerabilities they have, but they do not provide a standardized list of known vulnerabilities. Zero-day vulnerability refers to an unknown or unpatched vulnerability that has not been publicly disclosed, but it does not refer to a tracking or documentation system. SIM systems collect and analyze security data from across an organization's network, but they are not designed to track and document vulnerabilities, so the likely answer here is option A. CVE, or Common Vulnerabilities and Exposures, is a standardized list of known vulnerabilities and exposures in software and hardware. Each CVE entry includes a unique identifier and details about the vulnerability, which will allow for consistent tracking and documentation. Question 11. Which of the following would be used to adjust resources dynamically for a virtual web server under variable loads? A. Metered connection. B. Elastic computing. C. Scalable networking. D. Hybrid deployment. Metered connection is a type of network connection where usage is tracked and billed based on the amount of data transferred. Elastic computing is the ability to automatically scale computing resources up or down based on current demands. Scalable networking is related to the ability to handle increased network traffic. However, it does not address the dynamic adjustment of computing resources for a web server. Hybrid deployment involves combining on-premises infrastructure with cloud-based resources. So for this, we'll be going with option B. Remember the question asked, which of the following would be used to adjust resources dynamically? The key note here is dynamic adjustment. So elastic computing has the ability to automatically scale computing resources up or down based on the current demand. And this is a key feature of cloud computing services that allows virtual servers to handle varying loads efficiently by allocating more resources during peak times and reducing them when the demand is lower. Question 12. Nickel is setting up a web-based application that needs to be continually accessible to the end servers. Which of the following concepts would best ensure this requirement? A. Snapshots. B. High availability. C. Cold sites. D. NIC teaming. Snapshot is a form of backup that captures the state of a system at a specific point in time. It is useful for recovery, however, it doesn't ensure continuous availability. High availability refers to systems that are designed to be operational and accessible for a high percentage of time. A cold site is a backup facility with infrastructure in place to support operations, but without active data or equipment. NIC teaming involves combining multiple network interface cards to increase network availability and redundancy. While it can improve network reliability and performance, it doesn't address other potential points of failure in the system. So for this, we'll be going with option B. With high availability, there is minimum downtime and continuous operation, and this is achieved through redundancy, failover mechanisms, load balancing, and other strategies that keeps the service running even in the event of hardware or software failures. Question 13. Which command line tool is used to view the routing table of a network device in a Windows environment? A. Ping. B. Traceroute. C. Netstats. D. Routes. The ping command is used to test connectivity with another network device. The traceroute is used to trace the path packets take to reach a destination. Netstat command is used to display the active connections and network statistics, while the route command is used to view and manipulate the routing table in a Windows environment. So the command line tool that is used to view the routing table is option D, the route command. Question 14. A network administrator is informed that a user's email password is frequently hacked by brute force attacks. Which of the following policies should the network administrator implement to best mitigate this issue? For this question, we'll be choosing two options. A. Captive portal. B. Two-factor authentication. C. Complex passwords. D. Role-based access. E. Explicit deny. Captive portal is used to control access to a network, but it does not address the password security or brute force attacks. Two-factor authentication adds an additional layer of security by requiring the users to provide two forms of verification before they can access their accounts. Complex passwords enforces the use of a combination of letters, numbers, and special characters to help make the passwords more resistant to brute force attacks. Role-based access controls manages user permissions based on their roles within an organization, while explicit deny rules are used to block specific types of access or traffic but it doesn't impact the password security. So for this, the two options we'll be going with are options B and C: two-factor authentication and complex passwords. Question 15. Given the parameters below, which of the following would cause performance degradation between PC A and PC B? A. Humidity. B. Attenuation. C. Using switches instead of repeaters. D. Interference. Taking a look at the parameters we have here, humidity really has nothing to do with this. While humidity can affect the performance of network cables, it is less likely to be a factor in this scenario because the cables are properly shielded and installed. We can see that the cable types here are the Cat5 and Cat6 cables. Attenuation is the loss of signal strength over distance. Now in this scenario, we see that the connection between PC A and switch 1 is using a Cat5 cable with a length of 120 meters. Cat5 cables have a maximum recommended length of 100 meters for reliable performance, but in this case we have a cable that is 120 meters and this exceeds the recommendation. Hence, it will lead to signal degradation due to attenuation. For the other options, using switches instead of repeaters, switches are generally more efficient than repeaters, and in this setup, using switches is appropriate. Repeaters are used to extend the length of a cable, but the issue here is related to the cable length itself and not the type of network device. Interference can affect network performance, but in this case, the main issue is the cable length and signal attenuation rather than the external interference. So for this, the answer is option B. Because of the length of the cable, which exceeds the recommendation, it leads to signal degradation due to attenuation, and this can result in a reduced performance and potential connectivity issues. Question 16. Which type of network topology uses a central hub to which all devices are connected and where communication occurs through the hub? A. Bus. B. Star. C. Ring. D. Mesh. In a bus topology, all devices connect to a single central cable. In a star topology, all devices are connected to a central hub or switch. In a ring topology, the devices are connected in a circular fashion, while for a mesh topology, the devices are interconnected and provides multiple paths for data to travel. With respect to the question, it says all the devices are connected to a central hub and communication goes through the hub. So for this, we'll be going with option B, the star topology. As we can see in the diagram here, all the devices are connected to a central hub or switch, and the communication between the devices occurs through the central hubs, and it makes it easy to manage and troubleshoot. Question 17. You observed that some information on the local database server was changed during a file transfer. Which of the following should you be concerned about? For this, we'll have multiple options to choose from. Option A, DDoS, B, integrity, C, on-path attack, D, confidentiality. A DDoS attack aims to overwhelm a system with excessive traffic to make it unavailable. But with respect to the question, it says that some information on the local database server was changed during a file transfer. So DDoS is not the answer we are looking for. Integrity concerns whether the data has remained accurate and unaltered during transfer or storage. If the information on the database server changed unexpectedly during a file transfer, it suggests an issue with data integrity. So option B is one of the answers we're going with. For option C, an on-path attack involves an attacker intercepting and potentially altering the communication between two parties. So if data was changed during the file transfer, it could indicate that an attacker was intercepting and modifying the data in transit. So this is likely another option that we'll be going with. Let's check out the last option. Confidentiality is concerned with ensuring that data is only accessible to authorized users. Although confidentiality is important, the described issue of information being changed during a file transfer is more directly related to integrity and possible interception of data rather than unauthorized access. So for this question, our answers are options B and C, integrity and on-path attack. Question 18. When accessing corporate network resources, users are required to authenticate to each application they try to access. Which of the following concepts does this best represent? A. VPN, B. Zero Trust, C. SSO, D. Role-based access control. If we go through the question again, it says that users are required to authenticate to each application they try to access. Now let's go through the options. VPN provides a secure connection between a user's device and corporate network. However, it does not require authentication to each application. Zero Trust is a security model that is based on the principle of never trust, always verify. In a zero trust environment, every request for access is verified regardless of its origin. So it means that users must authenticate to each application or resource they attempt to access. SSO allows users to authenticate once and gain access to multiple applications or services without the need to log in for each one. While role-based access control involves granting access to resources based on the user's role within the organization. So for this, we'll be going with option B, the Zero Trust. Since it is based on the principle of never trust, always verify, for every request to access corporate resources by users, they are required to authenticate for each application or resource that they attempt to access. This approach assumes that threats could be present both inside and outside the network, so continuous verification is necessary. Question 19. Jack has installed a false camera outside the building to assist with physical security. Which of the following is the device assisting with? A. Prevention, B. Recovery, C. Detection, D. Identification. For this, we'll be going with option A. Although a fake camera does not actively monitor or record footage, its presence can deter potential intruders by giving the impression that the area is under surveillance. So this deterrence can prevent unauthorized access or criminal activity because the individuals may likely want to avoid the premises thinking that they are being watched. For the other options, recovery, detection, and identification, recovery involves measures taken after an incident has already occurred. Detection involves identifying potential security threats or breaches. Now, while this fake camera does not provide real-time detection, it acts as a deterrent. Identification focuses on determining who was involved in a security incident. So these three do not really relate to the question. That's why we're going with option A, prevention. Question 20. Which of the following will be used to enforce and schedule critical updates with supervisory approval and include backup plans in case of failure? For this, we'll be choosing two options. A. Business continuity plan, B. Change management, C. Acceptable use policy, D. Onboarding and offboarding policies. For option A, business continuity plans outlines how an organization will continue operating during and after a significant disruption or failure. Change management is a process that is designed to handle updates, modifications, and changes to systems and infrastructure. Acceptable use policies defines the acceptable use of organizational resources by users, while onboarding and offboarding policies deal with the procedures for integrating new employees into the organization and managing the exit of departing employees. With respect to the question, it says, which of the following would be used to enforce and schedule critical updates with supervisory approval and include backup plans in case of failure? For this, we are likely going with options A and B. The change management involves scheduling updates, obtaining supervisory approval, and planning for potential issues, while the business continuity plan outlines strategies for maintaining critical operations, including backup plans for IT systems and updates. Now, each of these, of course, requires supervisory approval and includes backup plans in case of failure. Question 21. Which wireless encryption standard is considered the most secure for the modern Wi-Fi networks? A. WEP. B. WPA. C. WPA2. D. WPA3. WEP is outdated and highly insecure. WPA is an improvement over WEP, however, it is less secure than WPA2. WPA2 is secure and widely used, however, it is not as secure as WPA3. So we'll be going with option D, WPA3. This is considered the most secure wireless encryption standard for modern Wi-Fi networks because it provides stronger encryption and improved security features over the other encryption standards. Question 22. In order to ensure that users are unable to browse the internet in clear text, which of the following ports should you block? A. 53. B. 80. C. 443. D. 23. Port 53 is used for DNS queries. Port 80 is used for HTTP. Port 443 is used for HTTPS, which is a secure form of HTTP, while port 23 is used for Telnet. Out of these ports, port 80 transmits data in clear text. Option B. So by blocking this port, it will prevent users from accessing websites using HTTP, which is unsecure, and this will stop them from browsing the internet in clear text. Question 23. A systems operator is granted access to a monitoring application, configuration application, and timekeeping application. He is, however, denied access to the financial and project management applications by the system's security configuration. Which of these describes this action? A. List privilege. B. Separation of duties. C. Multi-factor authentication. D. Network access control. Option A, the principle of least privilege, means that users are given only the access rights that are necessary to perform their job functions. In this case, the system operator has access to the application that they need for their role, which is monitoring, configuration, and timekeeping. But the system operator is denied access to applications that are not relevant to his duty, which is financial and project management. Separation of duties involves dividing tasks and responsibilities among different individuals in order to prevent errors or fraud. While it is related to security, it is more about ensuring that no single person has control over all aspects of a critical process. Multi-factor authentication is a secure measure that provides multiple forms of verification before access can be granted, while network access control involves managing and securing access to network resources. With respect to the question here, or the scenario here, the best description to the action where the systems administrator is granted access to only the monitoring, configuration, and timekeeping application is option A, the principle of least privilege. This minimizes the risk of unauthorized access, and it also reduces potential damage in case of a security breach. Question 24. In a small office with a wireless network and several access points used by mobile devices, users can occasionally report that the connection drops or becomes very slow. This usually only happens when the devices are connected to the office wireless network. Which of the following is the most likely cause? A. Interference from other devices. B. Configuration of the encryption protocol. C. Duplicate SSIDs. D. Insufficient bandwidth capacity. For option A, wireless networks can be affected by interference from various sources like other wireless networks, cordless phones, or even microwave ovens. And this is because the wireless devices are on the same channel or overlapping channels. For option B, while incorrect configuration of encryption protocols can impact security, it is less likely to be the cause of the intermittent connectivity or performance issues. Option C, duplicate SSIDs might cause confusion for users trying to connect to the correct network, but it is not the likely cause of the intermittent connectivity issue. Option D, insufficient bandwidth capacity can lead to slow performance, but it is less likely to cause connection drops. So for the scenario we have here, we are going with option A, interference from other devices. Interference can lead to dropped connections and slower network performance. So that's why we're going with this option. Question 25. Which of these attacks represents many devices sending fake access requests to a website and making it unavailable to respond to authentic users? A. Ransomware. B. Botnet. C. Virus. D. DDoS. A ransomware is a type of malware that encrypts a victim's file and demands a ransom for the decryption key. A botnet is a network of compromised devices controlled by an attacker, and while botnets can be used to carry out DDoS attack, the term itself refers to the network of compromised devices rather than the attack itself. A virus is a type of malware that replicates by inserting copies of itself into other programs or files, while a DDoS attack involves overwhelming a website with a flood of traffic from multiple compromised devices. So based on the scenario we have here, the best option is option D, the DDoS attack. The excessive volume of requests makes the target system unable to handle legitimate user requests, and it effectively takes the service offline or makes it very slow. This brings us to the end of the questions and answers video for the CompTIA Network Plus exam. Don't forget to like, comment and share, and also subscribe to our channel so that you can be informed when our next videos drop. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.